Common Sensi is proudly sponsored by Campus Kaizen. Campus Kaizen is a global software solutions provider and continuous process improvement consulting organization. Campus Kaizen offers multiple software products to support education operations. MCR Housing is a comprehensive student housing management system that enables staff to provide effective resident experiences. MCR Housing helps staff manage important housing and assignments functions, including housing applications, roommate matching, room selection, and assignments with one easy-to-use interface that also empowers students to actively participate in key processes. Guardian is education's most innovative, most configurable, end-to-end incident reporting and case management system. Guardian allows all departments to operate uniquely with one comprehensive database. From Title IX and student discipline to employee relations and disability services, Guardian is a one-stop shop for effective and efficient campus-wide case management. My College Roomie is the most powerful roommate matching and self-selection tool on the planet. MCR is a web-based student and resident social networking and roommate self-selection platform that provides both residents and staff with powerful tools to streamline, simplify, and improve the success rate of an on and off campus roommate matching process. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Common Sensi. My name is Jay Sensi, founder and CEO of Campus Kaizen. And if you're joining us for the first time, how Common Sensi generally goes is I invite an exciting and interesting guest to have an informal discussion, trade some cool questions, and hopefully provide some value to those that are viewing. I'm exceptionally excited about today's episode. Bringing on not only such a well-respected person in the industry of higher education, but more importantly to me, a dear friend, Tom Ellett, Chief Experience Officer at Quinnipiac University. Tom, if you'd like to just give a brief intro of yourself.
Happy to do so, Jay, and it's great to see you as always. As you said, we have a very deep relationship and friendship that's gone a number of years now. So Tom Ellett, I am in my fourth year here at Quinnipiac University. Prior to that, I worked at New York University for 19 years in different roles, progressive leadership opportunities at NYU, and before that at Syracuse University, and finally before that at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. More years than I'd like to count, but all very positive.
Awesome. Thanks so much for carving out an hour of your day, Tom, to meet today. I know your schedule is always very jam-packed, so I'm always appreciative when you can make some time for me.
Always. Glad to be here.
I've got a lot of really cool questions for you, but before we get into questions, I think you're such an interesting guest for me because up until you joined Quinnipiac, we had actually never done any business together. But what I thought would be really cool to share is kind of how you and I met and how we've developed this friendship over time. And so I'm going to kind of give it from my angle and then jump in with anything that you want to add along the way. I think it was at an ACUHO-I. I think we met for the first time, right? It was in Orlando, and it had to be probably 2015 because I think my wife was pregnant with Jerry at the time. And she was my only person helping me in the booth. And you were at NYU at the time, if I'm not mistaken, right? And you came up to the booth, and I don't know how we got the conversation started, if we started talking about working out, and then we kind of got into the Scranton thing. But at any rate, you came over and you started talking, and we had never met prior. And I think we got to started talking about working out first. And then somehow in conversation figured out that I was living in Scranton and you had a lake house just outside of Scranton. And so we made the Scranton connection. I don't know if you remember it the same way as I do.
Yeah, I do. So I was the president of ACUHO-I at the time, and so I was
That's right.
thanking
That's right.
many of the exhibitors for being there as part of ACUHO-I. And for those who don't know, obviously, ACUHO-I is the Association of College and University Housing Officers International. And we have an exhibit hall where we bring in probably about 100 or so exhibitors to come in who are partners with the association in higher education and who really invest in the campus housing experience. All those different vendors who really bring alive the student experience, whether it be the furnishings, whether it be the technology, whether it be other kinds of services. And I went and thanked all of the exhibitors there that day. And I saw this really buff guy standing there. And I think it was your very first time at ACUHO-I as well,
It was.
because I think your beautiful spouse was there and one of your partners. And so we started talking, and I think I said to you, listen, I'll listen to what you have to share, only if we can work out together. And you said,
Yep.
absolutely, positively, we will do it. And we did. And you killed me of one of many times that we have been to the gym together. Taught me so much about how to really take care of yourself. And so I'm very appreciative of that part of the journey. But I was really impressed by you as a young entrepreneur, really thinking about how do you differentiate yourself in the market? You have a great presence, real confident, but really curious as to what it is that people in higher education need to be successful and really paving the way for the student journey. And so, really appreciative. And then, pretty soon afterwards, you and your lovely wife, and at the time, that time she was pregnant, and came to visit us at our house only about 15 miles away from your home, our summer house. And we had some really, really great times on the boat, Lake Quinnipiac, and really great memories for me.
Yeah, and oddly enough, both of our wives are from South America. So who could have planned that? So of course they hit it off well. Um, Scott, I'm happy to know that, all those years of working out at least got me something. I got a great friend out of the deal. Um, and oddly enough, it was, like you said, it was my first time. Didn't really know what to expect out of a cool eye. And now we're 8+ years later and great friends. Our families are friends and excellent workout partners. What I've always loved about working out with you, Tom, is you have no idea how to quit. You have no quit in you. No matter what somebody throws at you, you push for the extra rep. And I think that's just indicative of, how far you've gotten in your career too. I think, and I know you and I have talked about this. I think so much about what you learn about yourself in the gym translates into, career and a career path.
It does. I've really become much more a better learner as I've gotten older. To be honest with you, I think for me it was became really rote and routine about working out, and it wasn't until I thought about a coach and really what is I wanted to accomplish as a goal, and that really has changed, and I think that permeates your life as well. It's not about that just specifically in the gym, but it's about life too. Who do you want to be, right, as a person, and what do you want to accomplish in this journey of life? And I've been blessed to have some phenomenal mentors and great friends who I can call upon and who challenge me to be better and better. And so I feel really lucky. And I would also say I feel like I've always wanted to get better, and so that I think is something that I would encourage all your listeners about. Okay, where are my weak spots, and how do I improve those? But what are my strengths, and how do I improve those as well?
And that's a perfect segue into my first question for you because it's fitness related. So from what I understand, you got into fitness a little bit later in life, right? It's not something that was part of your life in your younger years. What drew you to it, and why is it so important to you now?
Great question. And it really began my transition from Washington, D.C. My wife and I had two children at the time, 5 and 7, and we transitioned to Syracuse University. So I was, I think at that point I was 32, and I had never really done anything physical in terms of a routine. And I started going to the gym there. My first time on a treadmill, I think my first mile was about 13 and a half minutes or 14 minutes mile. And then I just continued to really push myself. And I will tell you, since that time, I've probably averaged going to the gym uh, 340 days a year. And certainly that has increased in the last 5 years. I don't think I've missed more than 2 days in any given year. So in some years I've gone 100%. But again, I was healthy, but I wasn't focused. I didn't have goals. And I think it was the goal that really has changed my approach to what I'm trying to accomplish now. And I would say for anybody, having a goal and working with people who have been successful in it is a game changer, absolute game changer.
Love it. Love it. All right. You have a question for me?
I mean, for you, I would really be interested for you to share a little bit about your journey as it relates to fitness, because you have a level of discipline, and I think discipline is something you learn and teach yourself. And the earlier in life you have discipline, the more it's going to make you successful in every aspect of your life. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how you created that ethic of discipline for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my kind of foray into working out really started, I'll say haphazardly when I was maybe 13 or 14. I think one of my buddy's older brothers said that girls like guys with abs. And I remember that moment so vividly that I would go home and do crunches every night before bed. Because I was thinking, if I got abs, I can have a leg up. But I really didn't work out consistently again until probably my senior year of high school. Um, One of my very closest mentors was actually the principal of my high school at the time, owned a local powerlifting gym called the Power Gym, and it was shortly after my father passed unexpectedly. He kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And I was, small kid, skinny. It was always hard for me to gain weight, but I always wanted to be more sizable, if you will, and stronger, more importantly. And so he really took me under his wing, taught me how to work out, taught me how to do things the right way, and also pushed me to every mental and physical limit possible. And I really learned so much about those early formative years in the gym that when you think you can't do more and you find a way to do it, makes all the difference. And I really attribute the perseverance and the motivation that I have in the business world to the things I learned there underneath the bar, underneath the iron. That when you don't think you can do it, but you find a way to do it anyway, it makes such a world of difference. And I really got started in powerlifting, actually. Wanted to be strong. Quick fun fact is our gym twice a year would actually go to local state prisons and compete against the inmates in powerlifting around Christmas time. And that was always a wild experience because you're 17, 18-year-old kid in there competing against prisoners. And then I got into bodybuilding. I did a couple bodybuilding shows when I was younger, probably 20, 21. And then in my mid 20s, got into more men's physique type competitions, qualifying up into the nationals. And so I've did this big kind of circle from nothing to powerlifting to physique competitions. And now I just try not to get fat. Um, Try to stay in good shape, try to be healthy. Maybe I'll compete again at some point, but knowing that somebody like you is getting ready for a competition, it's nice to be on kind of the coaching type side. Um, and be able to take that knowledge and hopefully help you be successful as well.
And I very much appreciate your guidance and support for sure. It's always helpful to have one or two people in your corner, and I
Mm,
find that probably better to have more than two or three people in your corner as well.
100%. 100%. All right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, Tom, to more of the career type side. This is a little bit of a long question, so I'm going to read it. One of the things I've always appreciated about you is that you're always an innovator. You're always a forward thinker. I remember lots of times working out with you and talking a little business. You would always ask me, what's next? What are you thinking about next? What are your products going to do next? What does the industry need next? You're always trying to think about what comes next. What's the next product everybody needs? Um, Being that way, that's probably how you ended up as being either the first or one of the first chief experience officers in the higher education industry. Kind of seems like you were destined for that role. They created that role for you. I'd love to understand kind of how that played out and where do you go from that type of role?
Um, Great question. I think that the edict or kind of uh, component of innovation is uh, cultivated in people. And, I think my dad was always someone who was curious. He had his own business. And, he was a real estate and insurance guy, but he moved into building houses for a period of
Hmm.
time. And I think he would look at a piece of land and he would create this uber vision of where the house would sit and how the sunlight would come down and shine on it and what the views would be of the house. And I think for me, thinking about that kind of ethic of curiosity has been one of the things that has been interesting for me as I think about colleges and universities. And, you know, this, whether my dad looked at the physical presence of a house, I look similarly at the idea of students and the temple of the student and where they may want to go in life. One of the formative experiences for me was getting my MFA in directing theater. And for me, it was always looking at the script and creating an end product, working with, very energetic and psychologically complicated people, actors, to think about their through line in life. And, what made me want to move into higher education, leaving the theater, was the idea that the most important through line is actually people and what it is they want to accomplish in life. And so I've made it my life's kind of journey to support students to think creatively about what it is from their gifts and talents that they could do in their life. And so, asking really good questions and not so much providing answers to people is really, I think, one of the best things we can do to support people because we want to create a sense of curiosity for them. And so, higher education for me is I'm curious. AI is a part of what we're facing right now, post COVID and the vulnerabilities that students have about self esteem, mental health challenges. I think self esteem has been an issue for um, centuries. It's not a new thing. But how do we think about cultivating a community for students that's supportive, that's innovative in a sense that will make them be able to be creative, confident, and resilient to what it is that they want to be in life. And I think it's okay. And I think it's even better sometimes when students walk into a college really open to the possibilities. Just like as we talked about earlier, I walk into a gym. open to the possibilities of what I can become. And so, I worked at places that I had really phenomenal supervisors who allowed me to dream. Barry Wells at Syracuse University, he came in and said, brought me in and said, you create what you want to create. And so we practiced some things. We had a great team there, one of the best teams I've ever worked with. And where those people who have at Syracuse have gone is absolutely amazing. The vice presidents, the deans, and faculty members, leaders among leaders, that group. And we really delved into the whole idea of doing something different. Then I was recruited at NYU, and similarly, the whole idea, and we had a president, John Sexton, probably one of the best presidents ever in higher education, in my humble opinion. He was charismatic, and his adage was, what have you done for me today? What you did yesterday doesn't matter. And what you'll do tomorrow will be tomorrow. But today, those students aren't going to remember yesterday. They're not going to remember the new building. They're walking in, and if the water fountain isn't working, that's the problem. And so he really taught me the idea of cyclical time in higher education, that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And for us to really think about how do we bring our best selves to our work environment. And I would say that NYU allowed me to have resources for really good ideas. So I was really blessed. Another great team of people I worked with who are really committed to being innovative in a place like New York City, right? Where, where dreams are made. And so I think those kind of experiences, and had a great supervisor there as well, Mark Wace, for 18 years, and always pushed my thinking like, okay, people are doing this. How do we do it differently than them? And so I think it's been ingrained, as I said, from my father to my mentors and to the type of institutions that I chose. And I would underline that and underscore that for your listeners, that we choose where we go to work. And if your value set is not congruent with the institution, you will be very unsuccessful. You'll be very frustrated. And I have been blessed to choose institutions that value my mindset and my ethic, and allow me and the teams that I work with to dream big, and to co-create with students. And it's been an absolute joy.
What I find impressive is how involved you are. So for the listeners, I actually got a chance to go up and visit Tom and his wife Gladys a few weeks back up at Quinnipiac, and I went up on a Sunday, stayed through Monday, and so on a Sunday night, Tom says to me, "I have a bunch of meetings tonight. I would love for you to come." I said, "Absolutely." And on a Sunday night, when most folks are thinking about getting ready for the week, they're decompressing over the weekend, you're back in the fire. And we had 3 back-to-back 1-hour meetings with different groups of students where you were just asking them for feedback on different topics. How can you better improve the student experience? How can you work through one of the athletic apps? I think was one of the topics we were talking about. And then the foundation. And I found that so impressive that on a Sunday night, when most people are enjoying their weekend, you are still doing everything you possibly can to serve the students, to be there as a resource. And for someone to be in your position and still be available as a sounding board for groups of students, I just find it just incredibly impressive. And I loved being a part of those meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that lots of folks approach the work very differently than I might. It doesn't mean that they're going to be less successful or differently successful than myself. I've always felt that um, students need attention, and students need to be heard, and finally, students need to be um, have access to those who are making decisions so that they can share what is actually happening to them. And so when I go to staff and ask, I'm not saying that staff can't represent students, but I can follow up with a question that I can't if I ask my staff member, that then they have to go back to the students. And I think that as every good administrator needs to think about, how do we provide historical context and rationale as to the decisions that were made prior to our time there and why we sit where we sit? And it's not seen, hopefully, it's not seen as justification for why we sit here in terms of defending it, but really rationale of, here's what was happening at that moment in time, and here's what the institution decided to do. And we can make changes, but know that your predecessors really wanted this to happen. So I really enjoy being pressed and pushed by students, their thinking. And the other thing that's really important for me is to find those students who have the stickiness factor. If you've read The Tipping Point, really great book, Malcolm Gladwell talks about how trends happen in our society and who are the people who help to make those trends happen. And so for me, if I can identify the the key student leaders who are going to influence the rest of their peers, um, that is going to give much more success to the institution. And I think it also galvanizes them as well to feel like they're valued and that they have access not only to information, but to the direction of the institution, their future alma mater, and what it means to be at this institution. So I think it's critically important to spend as much time as the higher level administrators as you possibly can. Now, not everyone agrees with me on this philosophy, and I respect that. But for me, it works.
Right. Yeah, and it's very synonymous with what we call in the Kaizen methodology, the voice of the customer, right? Going directly to the customer, soliciting unbiased, open feedback, and then learning from it, right? And so that's kind of the approach that we've always taken with building products, is rather than trying to come up with ideas pie in the sky and then push them down, just go ask the customer what they want, ask them what they're feeling, ask them what their challenges are, and then try to find solutions for those. And I think you're doing just that when you meet with the students and ask them those questions and hear it directly from those that you're trying to impact the most. Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, and it also helps that I'm looking at different levels of students. Like the first year students, we meet at an hour later. We meet with the upper class students, and then we have the scholarship fund that really talks about the adage of giving back in real time. And I'm very proud of the fact that the students have raised in less than 2 years $210,000 for scholarships for
Amazing.
students by
Wow.
students. It speaks volumes to how important we give students the opportunity to impact the institution, and they completely embrace it and do some great work.
That's amazing. Amazing. You also mentioned books, Tom. And so I don't know if this is something you're still doing, but I remember when you were at NYU, you had told me about something that you would do with all of the RAs is you would let, I think, every RA recommend a book to you, and you would read them all. I'd love to know, do you keep track of how many books that you've read in that manner? And are there two or three that you would highlight that you found maybe most impactful?
Yeah, so briefly, I did meet with all of the RAs for about a 15-year period, and it was more than 2,600 students that I met with because we had a pretty large RA staff, 30 minutes each. And it was something very special to me. Don't know if it was so special to all of the RAs I met with, but some of them, yes, but certainly not all of them. It finally led into a podcast that I did called Where RA Now, which I did for 3 years, my final 3 years there. That was a real blessing. In terms of the books, I haven't continued that practice here. I find that every institution's culture is a little different, and doing the same thing at a different institution, it doesn't always feel good for me. I need to find what that difference is at each institution. And so, I did do that. And I would say that there is a blog that anyone can certainly go on and see all of the entries that I have made from all the books I read. It's called What They're Reading. What Are They Reading? RA Reading. And it's a blog. And I'd say, a couple of the books that stood out for me is, I love The Alchemist, The Journey of Life story. And I think it's best to be read when you're at a critical juncture point in your life. It doesn't have to be when you're 18 years old, because I know it's a book that a lot of people say you got to read it when you're younger. I think the idea, and again, it's going through my fitness journey. You say what you're going to do in life, and then you tell people, and then they converge for your success. And that, I think, is a part of the journey that anyone at any point in life should be thinking about doing. So that would certainly be one. And then I would say other books really depend on my mood. There's novels that I like. The Shadow of the Wind is probably one of the most significant novels I've read. It is just a fantastic book. And I did it for a book club at NYU 3 times. And I will tell you, to a person, after the book club, I would say that 95% of the students said it became their favorite book. And I would encourage anyone to certainly read that book. And then, there are other books, The Four Agreements. I tend to like books that really give me something to reflect on as an individual and how to get better. But lots of other books as well. I thought the book by, I'm going to mess it up, but Doris Kearns, forget her last name, on the Abraham Lincoln's, the folks around him and his whole process of choosing wisely of people who are different than him, and how he had probably one of the most contentious leadership groups as a president of the United States and brought them together, was a phenomenal book, and really talks about us not shying away from those who might be considered our opponents, and how do we bring them together to help us think better. But go through the blog, a lot of great books in there, and I'm really grateful to all of the RAs at NYU who suggested those books. You'll see that one last one that I think is just a phenomenal book as well, When Life Becomes Air, the story of a young budding surgeon who comes down with a debilitating cancer, and in his life, and what it means to live a life and how to fight. It will certainly remind you of living every moment to the fullest, and how important family is as we live this life.
That's amazing. What I'd like to do is maybe I'll share the link to the blog in the description for the video, so that anyone wants to take a browse of all the books. I'd love to offer that as a resource.
Absolutely.
That's amazing, Tom. Any other questions you're thinking about that you want to throw at me as we wrap up?
I would ask you the question of what's next for you as you think about the company and what you want to accomplish and what you want to contribute. and the legacy that you want to leave as the owner of a really innovative organization?
Yeah, I think about that quite a bit. What's next for us? I think right now in the short term, we're very focused on serving the housing industry with the MCR housing product. The reception to that has been overwhelmingly positive, so I'm really excited to see what the next few years hold for that. Um, at the moment, we don't have necessarily a next product per se. I'm always of the opinion that growth is good, but growing too fast can be bad sometimes. And so I'm focused on growing the company the right way, never losing sight of keeping our existing customers happy. I think where a lot of organizations sometimes can stumble is they're so hyper focused on growth that they forget to take care of the people that are already paying for their services, that have already put their faith in that organization. So I'm trying really hard never to lose focus of that. Um, in terms of legacy, I'd like to be remembered as somebody who provided a lot of value to the industry um, the right way. Yes, every company has to make money to survive. Yes, I do it to support a family, but I think I would always like to be remembered as somebody that maybe could have capitalized and made more money if they didn't care as much about the people. Someone that was more of a friend to the industry than a vendor, and somebody who deeply cared about the relationships that they built and provided great products. I think if that could be something that uh, 20, 30 years from now, maybe I'm doing something else. Folks look back and say, remember that product or remember that guy that came in at a time where the industry was in a difficult spot and created this product and showed that he really cared about the people and did the right thing. I think that would make me very, very happy.
Fantastic. Again, it just speaks to the character that you bring every day and to your work and to the people that you interact with. And so I appreciate the fact that you're so honest, so direct, and so curious as to what it is that we need in our field to make the process of the administrative bureaucracy as limited as possible and engaging with our students. Certainly what you've done with things such as My College Roomie has really impacted the quality of experience for students, making sure that their entry transition to college is one that is as best it can be in selecting someone who might have more likelihood to be successful as roommates. And so that's a really positive, impact that you've made for hundreds of thousands of students upon that very, very difficult moment of transitioning from high school to college.
Yeah, I never really thought about that early on. But having that product being around for 10 years now, I mean, we get emails out of the blue from people that are no longer in college that somehow come across My College Roomie on LinkedIn or something of that nature. And once in a while, we'll get a message from somebody and say, I had an amazing roommate. I found them on My College Roomie. And I think that helped me, start my college experience off the right way. And it's nice to know that there's probably countless others that are maybe not telling us, but they had a great experience because of that. Um, and so maybe that's part of the legacy as well. At some point, maybe we've helped hundreds of thousands or at some point, millions of students um, have a great first college experience. I think that's really impactful.
Totally agree with you. Absolutely.
Awesome, Tom. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. You and I could probably, if we had time, talk for hours. But I'm so appreciative of your friendship. I'm so excited to have built this relationship over the last 8 years. I'm excited about your upcoming journey, and I'm very, very honored to be part of the process.
Thank you so much, Jay, and happy birthday as well. Today is a
Thank you.
special day
Thank
for
you.
you, and I hope that every day is special for you. And kudos for who you are, what you do, and how you inspire people like me.
Thanks so much, Tom. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.